few years ago, I went back to my home state in California and did a presentation on personal finance. It was really kind of interesting. I live in a town called Brentwood, or I grew up in a town called Brentwood, and we lived in, our state was in Stockton, state sentence there. So there's only one road there, it's called Highway 4. Anyone from California knows about Highway 4? But what it is when the San Joaquin Bay area was first around, there was a lot of, they brought in a lot of Chinese laborers. Most of the land, or a lot of it was underwater, and so what they did is they built these levees around these areas and then pump out the water. Interesting, Highway 4 is on a bunch of these levees. So if you're driving down the road, you look to your left, you drop off about 2 feet, and you'll see water. And if you look to your right, it'll drop off about 12 feet, and you'll see land. It's some of the most productive land in the world. So the downside is, again, you go off the road to the left, you go into the water, you go off the right, you drop 12 feet, you go into the land. So it's a pretty, it's not the safest road. And then when you get a bunch of teenagers on that road, it can be even worse. But I have a number of memories that just kind of came up. 3 little stories. One was my best friend in high school. That area there tends to have a lot of fog in the mornings. And he was coming back. It's actually late at night as well. He was coming back, and they had done some construction on a bridge, and there was a detour. And he was driving too fast for the circumstances. And he hit the bridge above. Story number 2. 2 friends. They were driving back, and I don't think all my friends are dead. These are also some other good friends. And one of the guys just out of the blue got this idea. He says, well, it'd be fun to turn off the key of the car. What would that do to the driver? And don't ask me why. He tended to do crazy things like that. But he did. What happens? He just thought, oh, I'll turn the car off. The engine won't go. What happens when you, on these newer cars, when you turn the key off? The steering locks. So he luckily he had he stepped on the brakes, but it wasn't before he hit a telephone pole. It's a significant amount of damage. And the third story is I just got back from my mission. I was driving my dad's F600 truck, which is about 20 feet long. Some of you have done it. Dual axles and a 16-foot trailer behind it. And on top of that, I had a 6,000-pound fork. Needless to say, the river was like this. I had to come around here, come across, and then come back that way. And needless to say, I did fine with the F600 truck, but the first tire of a tandem axle trailer hit the curb. It blew the tire, it bent the axle, and it did about $3,000 damage back then. This is probably about $30,000 damage about right now. And all my dad said was, he said, Brian, he said, just be more careful next time. And I was just shocked. So fast forward 30 years later, when my daughter got in her first wreck, I told Kim, just be more careful next time. And then call Grandpa and tell him, remember the time when you were kind to your son when he basically ruined the trailer? He says, tell him thanks. And so she did that. Let me just tell you the reason behind the stories. Story number one, don't drive too fast. Remember the law of the harvest. As we're working on these things, you need to save for what you want. Don't borrow. Make sure you've got your other goals too. Don't go faster than you have resources. Story number two is take driving seriously. It's not the big things that the little things that will get you. Watch your finances every day. Watch your budget. Make sure you're married. Make sure you have. This is the new name of the meeting. It's called a Stewardship Coordinating Council. Whatever you're meeting on something with your spouse. Take these things seriously. And number 3, don't take shortcuts. There's no shortcuts to financial security. No get-rich-quick schemes that work. Sacrifice, discipline, and the law of the harvest. So, those are just some thoughts. Okay, how are we doing? Financial plans, investment plans due when? Wednesday. So today's our last day on retirement planning. So we talked a lot about a lot of things. We talked about qualified retirement plans. We talked about individual and small business plans. Today what we're going to do is we'll talk about retirement planning, mainly Social Security. And then we'll, hopefully this will tie all the pieces together. We should have some time at the end, so if we have additional questions. So let's start with, everyone is going to need to get their Social Security statement. How many people have gotten their Social Security statements before? Raise your hand. They used to mail them to you.
I got one like a month ago now.
Oh, really? Okay, you're doing good.
I don't know why.
Okay, so it's important that each of you understand how much would you come from Social Security. I just got mine. I just went this morning and I downloaded it. And so something $8.70 a month, which is what I would get. It says your Social Security statement. What's the purpose? How much is Social Security supposed to represent of your retirement income? 40%. That's right. So that means you have another 60% that you need to have other ways. And the challenge is that so many people have not saved in other methods, and so Social Security is the only thing they're going to have. So what I want to do is I want to make sure this is not a problem that you guys have. So let's start. Anyone like to get their Social Security statements? If you've got your computers, I'd like you to do it at the same time. Anyone want to be a volunteer? Hey, Nathan, if you wouldn't mind. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to go to www.ssa.gov. They come and have you use the computer. And the instructions are on the PowerPoint, but we'll learn as Nathan teaches us how to do this. So it's important. Some of you, if you haven't been working very long, you may not have this. You may not have a Social Security statement. But everyone needs to go and to work on it. So it's ssa.gov. So what you're going to come here in the upper right-hand corner, it says sign in. Or you can do it here. Create an account. Click on that. It works. Slow. Let's do something. I'm dialing in for another computer. I'm going to minimize that right there. And just come on. Here. Where's your phone? SSA.com. So this way, I'm not dialing in one computer. Dial there. Well, it looks like it's equally slow. Not the fastest connections today.
Yeah, mine's not though.
Really? Try again. I'll try again once more. Anyone else other people having problems getting on, or are you on? Internet's not working? Okay. What we'll do is let's hold off on this for a little while, and maybe in a little while. I apologize for this. So what you will be doing is we will be creating an account. Again, this is what it looks like. Your Social Security statement, your benefits, how they're estimated, your earnings record. So what we're going to be doing today is really taking you what are kind of the critical pieces of information to help you to understand Social Security. Okay. So let's talk about how Social Security works. When did Social Security come about? the mid-30s. Came about at an interesting time. Stock market crashed. Market had dropped 64%. GDP dropped by almost 50%. 9,000 banks failed, and that $7 billion in assets was huge. And so realize it was set up for a different period. When it was set up, there was 17 workers for each retiree. What was the average? What's the average age that people would live to in the 1930s? About 65. And now look at now. Now we'll probably have around 3 workers per retiree. And what's the average age that people are living to? Probably the mid-80s. So it was set up as a pass-through account. What that means is that people who contribute right now are paying existing people, the retirees right now. It's not like the 457 plan in Chile or the Central Provident Fund in Singapore, where they actually set money aside in individual accounts. So that's one of the hard things about right now. You know, all the people, the baby boomers, they've been promised this retirement. So how does it get their money? Again, FICA tax rates, your OASDI. So you guys remember how that? Social Security, you pay 6.2%. Medicare, 1.45% of amounts. With Medicare, it's only up to $118,000. And that continues rising every year. So that's where, if you're self-employed, you have to pay both. So normally what happens is you'll pay half and then your employer will pay half. And that comes together. So if you make more than if your ATI is more than $250,000, then you'll pay more. Plus, you'll also pay additional on investment income. So what's included? Just think about everything's included. It's probably more important is what's not included. Sick pay, employer payments for hospital expenses, and employer contributions to your retirement plan. So employer's match is not included. But basically, everything else is included. So that's the basis on which it was. Right? So let's talk a little bit about some terms. Average index monthly earnings, AIM. What it is, it's your average of your top 35 highest earning years. The fact that you do it over 35 years, does that tend to raise the amount or to lower the amount? What do you think? Think about your salaries. Yeah, it tends to lower you. BYU, I think, is the top 5 of your last 10 years. The average of that. So it tends to lower that amount. But your average index monthly earnings is the basis on which you calculate your primary insurance amount. Now there's a way that that's calculated. They use what are called bend points to calculate your primary insurance amount. So this is how it's done. What we do is we take your average index monthly earnings, we take 90% of the amount of the first 826. So this is your first bend point. 32% of the amount between this part, which is your second bend point, and 15% of the earnings beyond that. So, for example, if your aim was $5,000 per month, you take 90% of the first 826, 32% of the next amount, and 15%. So you would have basically $2,060 per month. Now that's how you calculate your primary insurance amount. However, it varies. How much you get is based on when you take retirement. So if you take it before your full retirement age, well, let's talk about full retirement age. It's the age where you receive your full primary insurance amount. So if you take benefits before your full retirement age, you'll get a lesser amount. If you take benefits after your full retirement age, you'll get a higher amount. So when is most of your full retirement age? You're at 67. Yeah, I was born in 55, so I'm 66 in 2 months.
Hopefully the past 67.
Yeah. So the point here is depending on the age you decide to retire, that takes your primary insurance amount and then that adjusts that based on when you decide to retire. If you retire earlier, you'll get less every month, but you'll start earlier. If you get retired later, you will get more every month, but you'll start a number of years later. When's the last time Social Security tax rates have changed? Notice 1990, so 25 years ago. It's the last time they've changed. That's the most we've ever had. Is it likelihood that these tax rates will increase? Very much so. There's another thing. When we talked about qualified retirement plans, we talked about vesting. In Social Security, that vesting term is really, they call it, you're insured. So you're insured if you've worked 40 quarters of work and earned a minimum amount per quarter. So in 2015, it was $1,200. So if you work for 10 years, you've got a guaranteed retirement for as long as you live. Is that a pretty generous thing? It is. It's very generous. Let's talk about some of the benefits. So there's 4 areas: retirement, there's disability, there's survivors, and there's Medicare benefits. So, and what they do is they use your aim to determine your primary insurance amount. And again, they use your 35 highest years to compute it. So really, if you want to find out what your Social Security benefit is, all you need is your aim and your age that you're going to take retirement. So, retirement benefits. Again, if you take benefits that begin 3 years before full retirement age, instead of 100% of your PIA now, you do it 3 years before, now it's 80%. Again, if you want to do it 5 years before, it's 70%. And then if your spouse decides to take those before full retirement age as well, then theirs are reduced as well. And then what you can do is you can delay that. So if you're we're all born after 1943 or later, so we'll get 8% a year. So do we understand this? If your full retirement age is 67, if you start taking benefits at age 62, will you get more or less? Significantly less. If you start taking it, say, at age 70, would you get more or less? You get more. And so it's really a decision as to what's your income, because that will impact the taxes, how much taxes, and then what do you think you can invest it, depending on that. So what we've done is we've kind of put a tool together to help you out. Let's do just a few cases. Let's see if we can kind of put this up. See if we can kind of make it feel like it works. Bill was born in 1940. He plans to start receiving benefits at age 70 and a half, which is 3 years beyond full retirement age. He knows it will increase for 7% for each year. What is his benefit? What is his primary insurance? How much will he receive? I just realized someone told me today that the maximum you can do is 3 years beyond full retirement age. Is that right? Didn't you heard that? I don't know. Well, let's just use the problem. I'll check it out. So what's the formula here? Number of years beyond full retirement age times your percentage increase, 1 plus that times your amount. So what would his full retirement age be? Or excuse me, what would his retirement benefit be? Yeah.
So it doesn't compound?
It doesn't compound. Okay. We're comfortable with that. How about if he's thinking about retiring early? So his PIA is 1,300. If he takes it 5 years early, it'll be reduced by how much? 30% for the first 3 years, 5% after that. Excuse me, 20% for the first 3 years, 5% after that, so it'll be reduced by 30%. So what will his new PIA be? Or PIA is going to be 1,300. What will his retirement benefit be? Pardon me? 910, that's right. 910. Would it be nice to have a little tool to kind of help you think through this? Let me just show you something I'm working on right now, and we'll try to make it available. But what we really have is a math question. So if we're,
Increase the size.
Okay. So what we've got, I just did FRA minus 5, minus 4. So these are 5 years before full retirement age, 3 years afterwards. And so if you start taking at 5 years before, instead of getting 100% of it, you'll only get 70%. If you start at 4 years before, you'll get 75% of it. 3 years before, you'll get 80. 2 years before, you'll get 87. 1 year, 93. Or retirement age, you'll get 100% of your PIA. And then, plus 1, 8% more, 16 and 24% more. So what we've got is just a basic problem. So what I did here is we can put in, okay, let's assume 0%. 0% inflation. If I set full retirement age at 5 versus full retirement age, is there a break-even point where before if I lived to be 78, if I died before age 78, would it be better to take retirement at 5 years before or at full retirement age? 5 years before. So, but if I lived beyond 78, would that help me? It'd actually be more advantageous. What happens if we change this interest rate to 3%? Now we're about 74.5. Let's say I want to compare full retirement age minus 5 versus full retirement age of plus 3. Notice that? 77. But the point here is just math. And so, like I said, I'm working on this. But each of you are going to have to determine at what age you're going to take retirement. Are you going to retire at your full retirement age? You're going to take it before, or are you going to take it afterwards? Hopefully, what this tool can do is just kind of give you a little bit of help into making those decisions. This doesn't take into account taxes. So I hate to say we start with the tools quickly and just kind of put some ideas together, and then we start refining them as the time goes on. How about this one? Now we have a married couple. How does Social Security handle a marriage? So what they do is the spouse gets either the higher of their primary insurance amount or half of their spouse's. So assuming Sam's PI is $1,500, Ann's was $600, how much would they each receive at retirement? What would their combined monthly amount be? So this is kind of like my wife and I. I'm 3 years older than she is. And as we're thinking right now about probably what we would do. Probably work till like 70. And then we'll probably take Social Security. So how much would Ann get? Probably an easier one to calculate. She's taking benefits at what age? It'll be at her full retirement age. So how much is she entitled to? $750. And Amy, why?
Because she's entitled to half of her spouse's.
Right. Either the higher of hers or half of her spouse's. In that case, it would be $750. How about Sam? How many years beyond full retirement age is Sam? 3. And it's 8% per year, so what's his total amount? $1,860 a month. Hers was that $750, combined would be $2,610. Do we see how that works? Is that making sense? Okay, here's another one. How do we calculate about a family, survivor benefits? So in this case, married for 10 years, Steve passed away, they have 4 children under 12. I should say 4 children under 8. Okay, family maximum, they know his PIA, they know his family maximum. And this is the way it's calculated. Surviving spouses get 75% of the insured PIA subject to the family maximum. So how much would Jenny receive? Pardon me? $900. How much would her children receive? Would they receive 75% each? They receive $7,500 each. What happens? $900. The remainder is family maximum is $2,450, so the remainder would be $1,550. So instead of the $900 per child, it would just be the remainder up to the family. Is there a bias against larger families? Yeah.
So she and her children would receive that until they were 18 at a time.
Right.
So it'd be reduced a little bit.
Right, as each child leaves. Okay, here's a question. How are Social Security benefits taxed? Is that important? Answer yes. So here's kind of a framework. Question. They received $11,000 in Social Security benefits in 2015. Their AGI was $22,500. Plus they had a $1,500 in tax-exempt interest. So the way you calculate your provisional income, Social Security, what they do is they calculate provisional income, and from that you calculate your tax. So is your AGI plus tax-exempt interest plus half of your Social Security benefits. So does that make sense? Some of our tax people are very familiar with all of these things. So what happens if you have low income, provisional income less than 25 or 32,000 married, filing jointly, none of your benefits are taxable. Middle income, up to 44,000 married, filing jointly, 50% of your benefits are taxable. And if you're high income, 85% of the benefits are taxable. So how about this couple here? 22.5 AGI, 1,500 and 11,000. What's their provisional income? 29.5. So are any of their benefits taxable? No. So 25,000 less than the 34 base amount, none of the benefits are taxable. And here's another one, just calculating, going from your AIM to your PIA. I'm going to let you calculate this one here. So he's got an AIM of $5,200 a month. What is his primary insurance account based on the bend points of 826 and 4940? So remember how we did this? So it's 90% of the up to 826%. Then it's 32% of the amount between 82 and 49, and it's 15% above. Let's calculate that. Because this is a good problem for a quiz. You see why I like PowerPoint? That way I don't have to draw the graph. So what's his amount? What's his primary insurance amount?
You got 2,105.
Yeah. About 2,105. Okay. Could you do that? Does that make sense? Now let's take this same question here. Now we've got 2,106. I want you to calculate the family maximum. Again, now instead of 3 bed points, we have 4. Now this one here, I'll just put 2 calculators. I'll try to draw it. Now, whoever came up with this methodology, I don't have a clue. But it's important for us to understand how it's done. Again, the key point here is if you know what your average index monthly earnings, you know when you're going to take retirement, you can know what your amount that you're going to see. So what is their family maximum? Someone have that? Go ahead, Darren.
Is it 3685?
I think you're right. So 150% of the first 1,056 up the right there. 3685. But you see how things are calculated? Okay, so again, the critical pieces of information: what's your primary insurance amount, and when do you plan to take retirement? Social Security, will it last you until you die? As long as you live? The answer is no. Let's share a little chart. This is about what are some of the other benefits of Social Security. So here's the retirement benefit. We've talked about each of those things. Disability benefit. Notice if you're disabled, there's benefits there, and then as soon as you turn age, as soon as your retirement benefits begin, then your disability benefits end. So spouse at full retirement age, spouse any age caring for a child under 16, unmarried child under age 18. So what do you think what do you think the future is of Social Security? Cassie, what do you think? Think it's going to be around for you?
I'm not really counting.
So where is it now? We're currently taking in more than we're paying out. So in 2012, we ate 840 billion. We paid out 785. Here's the scary thing. Income is growing 1.4% a year. Social Security expenses are growing 9.7% a year. Is that sustainable? It's not. 2.8 workers per recipient. And that's according to socialsecurity.gov. So here's just a graph of where we are. So we're 2015. Again, we're 2.5, 2.7, 2.8. Mark.
So I know the sort of official estimates are in the 2030s sometimes, they'll run out of money, and
Will they run out of money?
Well, they'll be bringing in less than they're paying out, and they'd only be able to pay like 75, 80% of benefits as they are, without it being restructured. So either that happens, or retirement ages have to be increased, or taxes have to be increased. There's lots of different things you can do.
Different options you can do.
But for us to plan for like what we're gonna get, we really don't know. Other than that, we're gonna get a really bad deal. That's the only thing we really know.
Yeah, that's probably true.
But
there's a place for Social Security. Again, here's just some graphs on the deficits. In 2015, we're still in the black now. But realize that Social Security wasn't set up for the environment we're in. It was set up for a different period of time. Retirement age was 65. That's when people expected to live to 65. Maybe you raise the retirement age to 70 or 75. Also, look, we haven't had an increase in your Social Security taxes in 25 years. That hadn't happened before. I've had a number of students who come in and said the only reason I'm here at school is because of Social Security, because my parents passed, or my dad passed away, or something like that. So there's a place for it. The question is, what we have now is not what's needed for this time period. And so, again, we need to work with legislators and other people like that to really work on making this more solid. Here's just some, until 2015, basically paid solely from tax revenues. 2016 to 25, they'll have to use the interest on the bonds. Beyond 2033, basically they'll have to redeem bonds. And realize it's structured. 2075, there'll be 2 workers per recipient. So, do you plan for it? I'm not sure I put too much planning in it, but I would take it if I had. So, questions on Social Security. Does it make sense? Are you getting the sense on how it's calculated? What are kind of the key issues?
So if it's said to be 40% of your retirement income, what would you suggest for us? What percentage should it be?
I'd probably plan on it about 25 or 30, which is equivalent with what they say that they'll be able to pay 75 cents on the dollar. But I think the important thing here is we prepare for retirement is get in the habit. Get in the habit of saving. Get in the habit of putting money aside. Get in the habit of making sure that you're not spending more than you're making. Key things, get your house paid off. Out of credit card and consumer school debt. Save wisely. Kind of those other principles that we've talked about. It is doable. The Lord said He won't give us any commandment unless He prepares us. Help us to prepare a way we can accomplish it. But we need to be wise. And my generation, we spent a lot on big houses and big cars, and the downside is with that you don't have the resources to save for retirement. So a lot of my generation are going to have challenges in retirement. And it's not likely that the retirement benefits are going to be increased. So again, we need to take responsibility for our retirement. Take responsibility for our savings. Okay, questions on Social Security? Okay. Stuart.
This might be like a kind of asking you to predict the future, but what do you think is the most likely thing that happens? Because obviously something will have to happen.
My gut reaction is it's going to be hard to get some major things through. The easier thing would be just to raise the Social Security tax limit. So my guess is we'll see that probably coming through here fairly soon. And that will help things out for a while. But there has to be there's got to be some structural changes going on. Because what was set up worked in the environment it was set up, but it wasn't set up for an environment like we're in now. Other questions?
I mean, what can we do to keep that from being the outcome? Because I feel like if taxes get increased on me, when people paid in at 1 or 2%, and then they get to retire for 30 years on that it couldn't be more inequitable.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, I think, I don't know, it just feels...
How about people like me who paid in probably 5 or 6 times what I'll ever receive?
I guess the people who robbed us are all dead now, so...
But remember, it was built for a different time. They said, I mean, age 65 was when most people died. 17 workers. And so I think it was great for the time period it was set up, but it needs to evolve to take into account the changing situation. And I think if we get too much of, a lot of people have grown up with the mentality that the government will take care of me. And I don't think that's a valid assumption.
So we talked about like raising taxes or adding what you can receive.
Yeah.
Are there any plans about like making it optional, opting out?
So what's the problem of making it optional? You've got people like me who paid it in all of our lives, and so we've had this promise in the future. See, that's the risk of a pass-through account framework. It's not like in Singapore, where I put in 20% of my salary goes every year into a central provident fund. Is that right, Jim? It's 20%. Pretty close. Yeah, so they put in, and it's in my name, and it grows at a certain amount. Or the other things, Chile's 457 plans do the same way. But because of the way it was set up, you've got promises to existing people like myself who have paid in for 40 years. So it's not an easy problem to fix. So it'll take some really it takes some really good people to make the change. Okay, let's talk a little bit about any of these questions? So here's some of the questions we had. We talked about these right here. We talked about the split. We talked about this. Those I think you could, most of the other ones you can kind of review on your own. What's the most important thing you can do now to prepare for retirement? Yeah, save. Tax credits, we talked about these. Any questions on these? Let's talk a little bit about investment vehicle and asset strategies. How about this one? In this class we made you have to go through and you had to use Morningstar and you had to figure out what asset class you wanted. Then you had to figure out evaluate the different funds. Why do we have to go to all of this problem? Why can't we just pick Morningstar? The 5 stars or the gold or things like that. Eric?
Because every investor is a little bit different. We all have different priorities.
Okay. So we all have different priorities and different risk tolerance. But we adjust that risk tolerance based on our asset classes. Can't we just figure out what our asset classes are and just pick the fund, the gold fund?
There's a little bit of bias there because it seems like all the Vanguard funds have really good reviews.
So,
high
and
stars.
why do you
I think there's
why do you think the Vanguard funds have really good reviews?
there's some kind of benefit to the reviewers. There's some kind of
You
setup,
sure?
I think.
Are you sure?
They have the lowest expenses.
They've got the lowest expenses. And actually, there's been some research that's come out. The biggest single indicator of fund performance has been expenses. The higher the expenses, the lower the fund returns. And since Vanguard is the lowest of the lowest of all the costs, I'm not sure there's biases there. Be careful, that might be one of your broker friends telling you that.
He's biased.
Yeah. Other thoughts? Well, so here's some thoughts on Morningstar. Is it forward-looking or backward-looking with the data? you get their 3-star and their 4-star and their 5-star returns.
It's backwards.
Yeah, it's backward. Let me tell you, we used to manage money, and the Morningstar reports would come out on Thursday afternoon, and we would see their reports. We would see how we're doing, and if we were doing well, we would get really excited. And if we're doing poorly, we'd go home and hit the dog. But it was tough. Again, but you know, we were in fact, Morningstar actually used us as one of their advisors in their 401k. What do you think once you become a 4-star or 5-star fund? What do you think assets tend to do? Oh yeah, you know, one year we started $400 million. By the end of the year, we were at $1 billion in assets. What does that do for the difficulty of managing those assets and getting performance? It makes it extremely hard to do. We just had some managers from small cap firms here in Utah Valley come and visit my asset management class. And at $1.5 billion, they closed down the funds. And that's really takes a lot of guts to do, because realize with these funds, you're paid as a percentage of assets under management. And most of once you've already paid for your computers and your analysts and things like that, it all flows to the bottom line. But realize inflows of assets can be significant. With more inflows, it's harder to put that and to get the returns that you wanted before. Here's just a study. 248 stock funds rated 5-star in 1999. 10 years later, less than 2% had that same rating. 218 domestic stock funds, every single one of them lagged behind category averages and benchmarks over the period. So what happens? 5-star funds do not lead their peers. They typically do worse. So the key is to use that at your peril. So again, follow the principles. Low cost, tax efficiently, diversification, know what you invest in, invest long term. Rating should be just one part. So that's the important. Again, the principles I think are a lot more important. Again, I go back to this article. And I can get you the name of that other one that said, again, the single biggest factor was just expenses. If you keep your expenses down, you're likely to do significantly better. And that's why Vanguard and Fidelity, places like this, Schwab too, that have index funds. The index funds have such low fees that they don't have to earn too much to get you a positive return. Questions on this? Here's question 2. What's the difference in choosing assets for an IRA versus a 401k?
It's like the difference between choosing what kind of socks you'll wear and what kind of shoes you'll wear. I mean, like, it doesn't matter what shoes you're wearing. I mean, to some extent, maybe that's a bad analogy, fashion-wise. But as far as IRA versus 401k, like, that's just where you're putting the assets.
Okay, who gets to choose the assets you put in a 401k?
I guess there are limited choices.
Yeah, are there limited choices? Mark's pointing to himself. So generally what they'll give you 10 to 30 choices or 10 to 40 choices, and you get to decide, okay, 80% will go into this one. Will they have all the good funds that you want? Not necessarily. But what's the benefit of a 401k versus just putting it into an IRA? Yeah, so for example, Vanguard has a fund in our DMBA, or our 401k here at BYU. The management fee on that is about 12 basis points. If I buy that same fund outside of BYU's 401k, I'm paying about 17 basis points. So what happens, the companies go through and they'll make agreements for a lower management fee. So what you have to do is decide, let's say your asset class is large cap, is there a good large cap fund there? Yeah, the asset class is small cap. It may not be the one you want, but is there one good enough? And so you can actually use those choices, and then you can actually put your percentages in as well. Again, with IRAs, basically any IRA or any stock within limits. There are limits on what you can do. Okay. Well, we talked about the taxes. And we actually did this one here. Okay. So ideally what we can do is we can find what's the break-even point when we decide to take our Social Security benefits there. So again, kind of in summary, we spent a lot of time preparing for retirement. We started with the basics. Again, company retirement plans, individual retirement, small business plans, Social Security. The point is there's a lot of vehicles available that help us to save for retirement. The key is, we need to figure out which one will help us to accomplish what we would need for retirement the best, and then to use those. Other questions? Let's take a few minutes and just talk about takeaways. Grab out your digital dialogue or your folder. What are the takeaways? In fact, let's talk about the takeaways for all of retirement planning, not just Social Security today. Have some thoughts I'd like to share.
My first one is really don't plan on anything.
Really don't plan on getting anything from Social Security. I think it'll be there. It may not be quite in the form that we have right now, but I think it'll be there to help out.
Well, I'm not going to stake my retirement on it.
I wouldn't stake your retirement on it. Other takeaways? Yeah.
Mine was just kind of the withdrawing strategy. I'd never, before we talked about this, I always just thought, which one to go on. I never thought of taking it out.
Yeah. And your distribution strategy is important. A lot of times people before retirement, they don't realize that there's strategies for accumulation, strategies for retirement, strategies for distribution. And ideally, if we can kind of think through those, we can start working out some things and start making plans in our minds about what we're going to do to make sure we don't outlive our money. Other takeaways?
I think for me it was just the importance of like starting early and planning ahead. I mean, everything else is much like tax credits, but just really
And you're right. The most important thing you can do is start now. Start as soon as you graduate. Start with that first dollar. The other piece of advice: don't ever, unless it's a dire emergency, don't ever take anything out of retirement for consumption, to buy this or a car or something like that. Keep it in there. I found that that's been important in my wife and I, our lives. That if it's for kids' retirement, we never, or kids' education or mission, or our retirement, we never touch it except for those things. Any other takeaways? Laura, what were your takeaways?
The most important thing I can do now for retirement is just to start saving and getting this covered.
Zach, how about you?
Mine was the same.
Same.
Don't rely on government.
Adam, you'll be our last one here. What's your final takeaway for today?
I thought it was interesting how you just differentiate your proportion of like U.S. stocks, your riskiness as you go into different stages of retirement, like accumulation or when you're withdrawing, you probably want less risky. I thought that was pretty interesting to have different levels of riskiness as you go through each stage.
Yeah, and so your asset allocation is, you're going to need to rebalance as you go from stage to stage and as you get older too. Okay, any other questions? You guys can do this. You can save for retirement, but it's going to take work. It's going to take discipline. Let me just share my few takeaways. Number one, we're responsible for retirement. It's up to us. We need to follow well. Remember that video, a man with a plan, a person with a plan. And then we need to follow through with our plans. Number two, just like we needed to take driving seriously, we need to take retirement seriously. It's not the big things, it's the little things that can really impact your retirement. Number three, just as with the driving, there are no shortcuts. Please don't run into any bridges pulling your traders. There are no get-rich-quick schemes that work. Sacrifice discipline and the law. The harvest is still in the ground. Thanks, everyone. We will see you on Wednesday.